stuff it.
Yeah, he told me. Stuff.
I'd like to call the regular scheduled Committee of the Whole meeting of the 26th of May, 2026 to order. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda from administration?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, administration has no additions or deletions.
Thank you. Council? I do have one. I'm requesting the 8.4.1 Policy 915 golf cart storage be removed from the agenda. And my reasoning for that is I have a legal opinion that puts me in a conflict of interest, or a pecuniary interest, I should say. And the acting mayor isn't available to take the chair tonight. So looking for a motion to amend the agenda.
I make a motion we amend the agenda as suggested.
Thank you. Questions from council? Call that question. All in favor? And a motion to accept the amended agenda.
Make that motion, Your Worship.
Mr. Cosby, thank you. Again, all in favor? Thank you. No public input or delegations tonight. Presentations, any unfinished business from administration?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, nothing from administration.
Thank you. Council? Okay. New business, 8.1, Policy 909, Program Subsidy. Request for decision. We're in your hands.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the request for decision, the request that council review the subsidy policy following updates that the Community Services Policy Committee had proposed. To move to bring this forward as a proposed policy 909.06. Subsidy for adoption at a regular council meeting as discussed. Administration recommends carrying the above proposed motion. The policy was visited at the policy committee meeting where it was identified that updates were needed to both wording and guiding principles to better align with current needs and objectives. For some discussion, the town of Redwater currently offers program subsidy to support residents experience financial barriers to participating in recreational, cultural, and social programs. Historically, the subsidy has been primarily supported just for children and youth. During the Community Services Policy meeting, it was suggested that a portion of the available funding be expanded to support adults who may also not have the financial means to participate in programming opportunities. This amendment would increase accessibility and support participation for residents of all ages. The policy has been also updated to align with the town's current policy template. There's no anticipated financial implications for the changes because instead of we didn't change the maximum allocation, we just used the existing budget in an 80-20 split between youth and adults. And they can be accommodated within the current funding levels and will not impact the overall budget. There might be a slight increase in applications as eligibility expands to include adults, which could result in a minor increase in staff time required to administer the program. But at this time, the increase does not anticipate to impact service levels at all. Some of the external impacts might be that this amendment is anticipated to have a positive impact on our community by increasing access to programming opportunities for residents of all ages. Expanding eligibility to include adults may help residents feel heard and supported while reducing financial barriers to participation and encouraging greater community involvement. For the strategic alignment, it aligns with engagement and community. As the amendment was informed through community feedback, as a member of the public identified the opportunity to expand subsidy eligibility to include adults experiencing financial barriers. Administration brought this feedback forward for consideration, resulting in the proposed policy change to better respond to community needs and improve accessibility and programming. It also aligns with service excellence by responding to identified community needs and improving accessibility to town-supported programming. Expanding eligibility demonstrates the commitment to inclusive, resident-focused service delivery while ensuring available resources continue to be used effectively and responsibly. It also helps with the destination of choice and affordable community, as it supports the town's goal of being a destination of choice by reducing financial barriers and increasing access to recreation, culture, and social opportunities for residents of all ages. By creating a more inclusive participation opportunities, the town fosters connected, welcoming, and engagement community that supports overall quality of life. For the communication plan, administration will bring forward the proposed policy to a regular council meeting for adoption as directed by the committee of the whole.
Councillor Smith?
I move to bring forward the proposed policy 909.06, courses and programs for adoption at a regular council meeting as discussed.
Council, questions for Ms. Melnick? Councillor Olson?
Fair 5.3, we're using the low-income cutoffs for 30,000 to 99,000 population category. Nothing smaller to get it closer to what we actually are.
There is, but when you get that small, it basically cuts out, the gap is so big then that like everybody that we've been approving wouldn't be approved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's all I was wondering, because, I mean, we're a town of 2,200 and we're using stats for 30,000 to 100,000.
Yeah.
So,
Council, go ahead.
You're putting 20% towards adults. Was there 20% not used when it was just?
It was just for youth and child subsidy. So now we're just taking a portion of like 20% of that allotted budget to use towards adult subsidy.
Was that allotted budget all used last year, or was 20% wasn't used?
More than 20% was not used.
Big question, what was the budget?
$1,000.
Total?
Total budget was $1,000.
Yeah.
Actually, is there any reason why we have percentages split?
Well, we figured that most of it has always been youth, and that's what a majority of it is. We did have one resident who brought forward that they would like to see adult subsidy. I figured that an 80-20 split would be a good starting point to see how much uptake we actually have of the adults accessing the subsidy. And that way we don't put it 50-50 and then a bunch of children who would typically get that subsidy are now out.
Okay.
Because it is a first come, first serve.
The $100 per family, that includes any monies going to youth or to adults in the same family?
So this, yeah. What number was that?
5.6?
Yeah, so it was 400, it was 170, 175? Yeah, 5.5 says, to a maximum of 175 per child, or to a maximum of $400 per family per calendar year. And if they're accessing the adults subsidy, then it's 70 per adult per calendar year to a maximum of 100 per family. So they're not gonna be able to mix the two. So it's either one or the other type of thing.
My understanding of this as well is this is strictly for a program.
Yes,
It's not for a membership
that's
in
correct.
swimming or a membership
Right.
for horseshoes or anything like that.
Exactly. If they were to register in a program that is running, say, 6 weeks of aquasize, absolutely. If they want just to go into the pool and do a swim, no. It has to be a registered program, and we never pay them. We always pay the program. So if it's dance, hockey, soccer, we pay those organizations directly.
Okay. else from council? You put an awful lot of work into this, and I think it's commendable to look at the adult impact as well as the youth impact. I have some language issues within the policy. Not that that's stopping it or anything like that. In my mind, I think we've got a good nucleus for it. My only request of administration would be that it's fine-tooth combed before it comes back to council for a final decision, just to tidy up some of those inconsistencies. And just to give you an example, not to beat on the bush or anything, but in the first paragraph, 1.1, we talk about recreation, culture, leisure, and community programs. And then in the next paragraph, 2.1, we talk about recreation, culture, and social programs. So if we can just tie those languages together so that they have the same meaning all the way through. That's all I was getting at. I think you've done a real good job of putting the package together, so thank you for that. Anything else from council? Not seeing anything. Motion on the table. I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Moving forward, we have the next one, courses and programs, 8.2.
So the request for decision on this one is to request that the committee of the whole review policy 901.03, courses and programs, following updates that the Community Services Policy Committee proposed, and to bring forward policy 901.03, courses and programs for adoption at a regular council meeting as discussed. Administration recommends carrying the above proposed motion. The background for this policy is the policy was reviewed by the policy committee meeting, where it was identified that updates were needed to both the wording and the guiding principles to better align with current needs and objectives. Some of the discussion, the policy was reviewed and updated to improve clarity and administration efficiency. Revisions include updates to the policy wording and terminology to better reflect current practices and provide clearer direction for administration and users, as well as updated into the new template. Changes were also made to the withdrawal and refund provisions. Withdrawal fees after the registration deadline were revised to better align with the actual costs associated with delivering programs and recognize expenses that may have already been incurred once registration closes. In addition, the refund process was updated to prioritize processing refunds through Perfect Minds where possible. This change is intended to streamline administration, reduce unnecessary processing times, and minimize costs associated with issuing manual checks and completing additional paperwork. Some of the financial implications are there are no anticipated financial implications resulting from these policy updates. The changes were administrative in nature and are intended to improve efficiency and align with current practices. Some of the internal impacts are the proposed updates are expected to improve administration efficiency by streamlining the refund process through Perfect Minds, reducing processing time, and allowing refunds to be issued more quickly. External impacts of the proposed changes are expected to improve the customer experience by reducing refund processing timelines, allowing residents to receive refunds more quickly, and increasing overall satisfaction with service delivery. It aligns with engagement and communication. Internal engagement occurred through the policy committee review process. Updating the policy information will be communicated to staff and reflected in program registration and refund procedures. And with Service Excellent, this policy supports Service Excellent by improving efficiency, reducing refund times, and enhancing the overall customer experience for our residents. And destination of choice and affordable community. This policy supports the destination of choice strategic by enhancing the residents' experience through a more efficient, responsive service delivery.
Councillor Cosby.
I'll move to bring forward policy 901.03, courses and programs for adoption at a regular council meeting as discussed.
Thank you. discussion, council? Go ahead, Councillor Wilson.
5.1B, where you state that whenever possible, that we will not compete with local businesses and not-for-profits. I'm glad to see that's there, and you scratched out the all, because the lack of volunteers, I guess, not-for-profits, they want to put a course on, but it's hard to do. And business is business. I mean, we're the ones getting the phone calls saying, can you run this, can you run that? So, and businesses are gonna be at a higher cost, I would assume, than what we're just doing cost recovery.
Absolutely.
Mr. Van Buell, anything?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just a comment, and I want to make this clear for council, because I don't know that the policy makes it as clear as we may want it to be. And that is, I don't think we're changing our policy to say that we won't make money on any programs.
No.
Because, we run, there's a very successful program that we're running right now that we are, making money on. But we're using it to subsidize other programs. So I just wanted to make it clear that we're not changing that in this policy. All right, but it's setting a target for us. Now, if we exceed that target, awesome. I don't want any of the public coming back saying, you're making too much money on this program, I need a rebate because your policy says so. And I think that's the only thing that I wanted to make clear with this policy, is we're not changing that direction in any way, shape, or form.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
I know the same comment you made about the last one. There's a couple of things in here, the wording needs to be fixed. Like 4.13, just as an example, says withdrawal means when a registrant voluntarily cancels the that wording just needs to be cleaned up. I don't know any others in there. That's the one I caught.
Anything else from council? I'll fall back on the same sword. You've done a great job putting it together. There are a few inconsistencies. The two that I noticed that were most important in my mind, where you're defining a word in your definition, and you're using the same word as defining it, and that's in drop-in. So in the definition of drop-in, you refers to a registrant that attends a course or program on a drop-in basis. We have to have some sort of expansion of what the intention of drop-in is. So if you flower that a little bit.
Okay.
And then the other one that I found is in several places, we're referring to participants in particular notifying the town that they can't make something or they can't pay whatever the scenario is, inform the town of any illness or emergencies. Does that mean they just phone the front office, or should there not be a specific position or person as opposed to just the town?
Yeah.
But again, a good application of the process. Mr. Van Buel's identified the intent, and fine-tooth comb, I think we're good for the council when it comes to the council meetings. Anything else from council? All right, motion on the table. I'll call that question. All in favor? And that's carried. Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Dust abatement, 8.3.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Mayor, members of council. Sorry, I've got a different page pulled up here. I was following along with what was happening there. All right, so we have another very similar to what Charity's just gone through, but with a little bit of a difference in rescissions here. So purpose of this report is to bring forward policy 416, dust abatement. Excuse me. For Committee of the Whole review for rescission following discussion at the May 11, 2026 Infrastructure Policy Committee meeting. Recommendation, Administration recommends Committee of the Whole considers rescinding of Policy 416, Dust Abatement Policy. Background, Policy 416, Dust abatement was established to provide dust control within the town of Redwater corporate limits. Excuse me, losing my breath a little bit. And outline the process for providing dust control on gravelled roads. The current policy addresses the annual advertisement of the program, application deadlines, late applications, the use of calcium chloride, material approval, fees, exemptions, application length, payment requirements, and the application form. Policy 416 was reviewed by the Infrastructure Policy Committee. The policy was reviewed as part of the town's ongoing review process to determine whether the subject matter remains appropriate as a standalone council policy or whether it is better managed administratively. During the review, it was identified that the majority of the policy content is administrative and operational in nature. The policy does not establish a broader strategic or governance framework. Rather, it outlines the process administration follows to deliver the annual dust abatement program. The committee report also noted that the dust abatement fee is now approved through the town's fees and charges bylaw as part of the annual budget process, which provides a more consistent and transparent approach for setting municipal fees. Following the committee's review, direction was provided to administration to bring the policy forward to committee of the whole for council review of the proposed direction. The proposed direction is to rescind policy 416 at a future regular council meeting and replace the operational content with an administrative directive. In reference to discussion, this report is being brought forward to committee of the whole to allow council to review the direction provided by the Infrastructure Policy Committee prior to a formal rescission request being brought to a regular council meeting. Administration is recommending policy 416 be rescinded and replaced with an administrative directive, as we just alluded to. The existing policy contains several procedural details that may need to be adjusted from year to year based on operational requirements, product availability, contractor scheduling, application timing, road conditions, and available resources. Maintaining these details as a council policy may limit administrative flexibility and require council-level amendments for routine operational changes. The current policy also contains dated language regarding the establishment of the dust abatement fee. Specifically, the policy states that the fee for the provision of dust control shall be set annually by council by April 1. This process has changed. The fee is now approved through the fees and charges bylaw during the annual budget process. The administrative directive would preserve the current intent of the program while allowing administration to manage the annual process more effectively. The directive will continue to address, obviously, annual program advertising, application deadlines, late application, payment requirements, product application, environmental and safety considerations, service limitations, and circumstances where reapplication or maintenance of the treated roadway may be required, and customer acknowledgement requirements through the application form. The application form can also be maintained administratively and updated as required to reflect current fees, contact information, operational requirements, and customer acknowledgements. This is more appropriate than maintaining the form as a schedule to a council policy. As this matter is before committee of the whole, no formal rescission is being requested at this meeting. If council is supportive, the direction of administration would bring policy 416 forward to a future regular council meeting for formal rescission. In relation to financial implications, then there's no immediate financial impacts associated with reviewing 416 at committee of the whole or with the proposed future rescission of the policy. The dust abatement fee would continue to be reviewed and approved by council through the annual fees and charges bylaw or approved municipal fee schedule process. This maintains council oversight of the public fee while allowing administration to manage the operation of the program through an administrative directive. Any future adjustments to dust abatement fee would continue to be brought forward through the annual budget and fee review process. In relation to internal impacts are expected to be minimal. Administration would be required to prepare an administrative directive to replace the operational portions of policy 416. This would provide staff a clear internal direction for managing the annual dust abatement program, including advertising, application, intake, payment confirmation, contractor coordination, product application, and communication with residents. The change may improve administrative efficiency by allowing routine operational details to be updated as needed without requiring a formal council policy amendment. It'd be helpful where annual adjustments are required due to contractor availability, material supply, weather, road conditions, timing, etc., etc. External impacts also expected to be minimal. Residents would continue to have access to the annual dust abatement program subject to the approved fee at advertised application deadlines, operational requirements, and available resources. The primary change is that the program process will be managed through an administrative directive rather than standalone policy. Residents will still receive information through the annual program and application form. Application form would continue to communicate key service expectations, including obviously pay requirements, service limitation, the applicant's responsibility to identify the requested treatment area, and the town's ability to maintain or return the roadway to its original gravel condition when required. The current policy form also notes that the effectiveness and duration of dust control is not guaranteed and may be affected by weather, road conditions, and seasonal factors. I won't go through the strategic alignment, but it's there, and I'm sure you've all read it. Relevant legislation, standards, policies, or plans. Obviously, the Municipal Government Act, Town Redwater Fees and Charges Bylaw, Policy 416, Dust Abatement, Annual Municipal Budget Process, and applicable environment and safety requirements for approved dust control materials. In relation to communication, if the Committee of the Whole is supportive of the proposed direction, administration will bring Policy 416 forward to a future regular council meeting for formal rescission. If council subsequently rescinds the policy, administration will update the town's policy register and remove Policy 416 from active use. Administration will then prepare an administrative directive to manage the annual dust abatement program. Public communication regarding the annual dust abatement program would continue through the town's regular advertising process, and the application form would be updated administratively as required to reflect current fees, deadlines, contact information, service limitations, and applicant knowledge requirements. And obviously the attachments are the dust abatement policy 416 and the report to committee. That is it. Thank you.
Councillor Olson?
Motion that the Committee of the Whole direct administration to bring Policy 416 dust abatement forward to a future regular council meeting for the formal rescission.
Discussion. I have a quick question about the process with the dust control.
For sure.
Is it just for gravel roads, or would it work on, I know we use millings in certain places. Does it work with millings, or is it better just for gravel?
To be honest, Mr. Mayor, anywhere that generates, anything that generates dust, it will work on. I haven't tested it on millings myself personally, actually, to be really honest. I'd be interested to find out. But generally the millings, once they start really busting up, you will get a brown, dark dust anyway, and I'm sure it would work the same on that. So, yeah.
Any more discussion from council? Questions? Not seeing any, I'll call a question on the motion. All in favor? And that's carried. Pembina Place Corporate Policy Rescission.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Thank you.
Sorry, I had a rough start on the last one.
Take your time.
So I'll move straight. What's that, sorry?
I say take your time.
Always got a little bit of a frog going on there. So on to Pembina Place Corporate Policy Rescission. The purpose of the report is to bring forward consideration of the rescission of Policy 913.1, Pembina Place Corporate Sponsorship, for Committee of the Whole review following discussion at the March 10th, 2026 Community Services Policy Committee meeting. Our recommendation, or administration's recommendation, that Committee of the Whole accept the report regarding Policy 913.1, Pembina Place Corporate Sponsorship, as information, and provide direction to administration to bring Policy 913.1 forward to a future regular council meeting for formal rescission. And the Committee of the Whole support administration preparing an administrative directive to manage Pembina Place corporate sponsorships with applicable sponsorship rates to be reviewed through the annual fees and charges bylaw or approved municipal fee schedule process. In relation to background, Policy 913.1, Pembina Place corporate sponsorship, was reviewed by the Community Services Policy Committee at its March 10, 2026 meeting. Policy was reviewed as part of the ongoing policy review process, as we know. And the policy establishes a framework for corporate sponsorship opportunities within Pembina Place, including naming rights, advertising space, promotional recognition, arena boards, dressing rooms, signage areas, and the electronic message board. The policy also provides direction for written sponsorship agreements and outlines responsibilities between the town and sponsoring organisations. The previous Committee report noted that the policy continues to provide useful administrative direction for sponsorship agreements, advertising content approvals, signage responsibilities, and facility administration. During the March 10, 2026 review, the Community Services Policy discussed that the sponsorship framework remains useful. However, embedding sponsorship rates directly within the policy creates an administrative challenge, as any rate adjustment requires a formal policy amendment. The committee report identified that moving sponsorship pricing into the fees and rates schedule would allow council to review and adjust rates through the annual budget process without reopening the policy. Following the committee's review, direction was provided to administration to bring the policy forward to committee of the whole for council review of the proposed direction. The proposed direction is to rescind policy 913.1 at a future regular council meeting and replace the operational content with an administrative directive again. In relation to discussion, this report is being brought forward to committee of the whole to allow council review the direction provided by Community Services Policy Committee prior to a formal rescission request being brought to a regular council meeting. I won't go over the recommendation again. The administrative directive would retain the operational elements that are still required, including sponsorship agreement requirements, advertising signage approval process, content review expectations, signage production installation responsibilities, and general facility administration requirements. Sponsorship rates would be better managed through the annual fees and charges bylaw. This would allow council to review rates during the normal budget and fee setting process, rather than requiring a policy amendment each time rates need to be adjusted. As this matter is before committee of the whole, no formal rescission decision is being requested at this meeting. If council is supportive of the direction, administration would bring policy 913.1 forward to a regular council meeting for formal rescission. Financial implications: there are no immediate financial impacts associated with rescinding policy 913.1. Future sponsorship revenue would continue to be collected in accordance with the approved rates. Moving the rates into the annual fees and charges bylaw may improve financial administration by allowing sponsorship pricing to be reviewed alongside other municipal fees and facility rates during the annual budget process. Any future changes to sponsorship rates will be presented to council through the regular fee review process. Internal impacts are expected to be minimal. Administration will be required to develop an administrative directive to replace the operational portions of policy 913.1. This will provide staff with clear internal direction for managing sponsorship agreements, advertising approvals, signage responsibilities, and facility coordination. The change may reduce future administrative workload by avoiding the need to bring forward policy amendments for routine, as we alluded to earlier. External impacts. External impacts are expected to be minimal. Existing and future sponsors would continue to have access to corporate sponsorship opportunities at Pembina Place. The town would continue to use written agreements to outline sponsorship terms, recognition opportunities, and responsibilities. The primary external change is that sponsorship rates will be identified through the annual fees and charges bylaw, rather than being embedded in a standalone policy. I again won't go over the strategic alignment, but they're all there. Excuse me. Relevant legislation, standards, policies, or plans. Municipal Government Act, Town of Red Water fees and charges, and policy 913.1, Pembina Place corporate sponsorship. In relation to the communication plan, if council rescinds policy 913.1, the administration will update the town's policy register and remove the policy from active use. Administration will prepare an administrative directive to support continued management of Pembina Place corporate sponsorships. Any applicable sponsorship rates will be brought forward as an amendment to the current fees and charges bylaw. Further changes will then be brought forward annually through the annual budget process. Existing and future sponsors will be advised of applicable rates and sponsorship requirements through the normal sponsorship agreement process. In relation to attachments, we have Pembina Place corporate sponsorship policy 913.1 and the report to Community Services Policy Committee. That's my report.
Thank you. Councillor Olson?
I make a motion that the committee of the whole would direct administration to bring policy 913.1, Pembina Place corporate sponsorship forward to a future regular council meeting for a formal rescission.
Discussion by council? I've got one big red flag, and it's administrative in nature, and I would be looking for some sort of process within our budget structure that will bring a larger focus to our fees and charges component. rather than just an inclusion in the budget that fees and charges are part of the revenue stream. I would expect that we would see more in our budget presentations about what the expectations are from the fees and charges, because we're putting an awful lot of the council responsibility into administrative directives, and I don't have any trouble with that. I think that's a good process. Obviously, we don't need to be sitting here all in favor, all opposed to a 15 cent an hour raise in the cost of ice or anything like that. But I would like to make sure that there's an understanding that come budget process, council will probably be looking for a more in-depth step into that fees and charges framework. Does that make sense to the administration?
Because there's a big disconnect between December, or October, November, when we're talking about budget, and April, when we're doing the fees and charges.
Yeah.
So, March, April.
So it would just be within that budget discussion, we would probably be looking forward as to what we expect our fees and charges bylaw to look like in the package.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, and I think that makes sense from a process perspective as well, because our budgets are put together based on what we're expecting those fees and charges. And I think, you know, outside of utilities, the big one is Pembina Place and fees and charges for ice and all the rest of that. So I think that makes sense, and highlighting it, we can chat with Haley about how we build that into our process. But certainly from administration's perspective, I think, again, you can't put your budget together without knowing what those fees and charges are. So making that more transparent for council should be.
Go ahead, Ms. Tingley.
So our current process now is during the budget process, we include the fees and charges presentation with all of the budget presentations, outlining all of the changes that have been incorporated into the budget for the upcoming year. So I guess I'd just be looking for more specific feedback as to what, because we broke it down into each schedule of the fees and charges, like what was changing for the next year and how that was incorporated into the budget. So I guess I would just look for clarification as to what you're looking for from council to build on that.
Specifically with respect to the three that we've looked at tonight
Okay.
that are going in, we would like to see how that process is working with the changes that we've made.
Okay.
And as you've mentioned, the specific changes that you're anticipating for that year, so that the charts are nice. And I'll refer back to the committee meeting that we had. The conversation was that the road oiling was in our fees and charges bylaw, and I had to physically go back and try and find it.
Okay.
Because it wasn't one of those things that we talk about on a regular basis. So unless we are cognizant of it, and we've made some changes, so we would like to see what those changes look like physically.
No, absolutely.
When the time comes. So,
Yeah.
Councilor Olson.
Can we look at passing our fees and charges bylaw and have it come into effect April 1st? Pass it in October, November?
There's no reason why we can't.
Because then it'd be at the same time.
It's
You know, because, I mean, the reason we're doing it in April is because of ice, right? Is that all the associations are know what they're paying, and if we tell them halfway through the year they're gonna pay an extra $5 an hour, like,
It would be no different than what we did with, we passed it in, I think, late November, early December for
effective January
for an
1st.
effective date of January 1st. So
I just think it would make it a little more clearer when you're looking at our fees and schedules and then the budget. We're reminding ourselves in April, talked about in November.
just a couple things on the fees and charges. One, if I can, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Within that bylaw, there's an acknowledgement that, you know, we might not get all the fees and charges. There might be something that we want to charge for that isn't included in the bylaw, and it allows myself as a CAO to establish that fee and then bring it back to council and bring it with the next bylaw changes. When I first read this, and I had to remind myself of that because, and I'm gonna pick on the staff at Pembina Place in a positive way. They've been really creative on how they sell sponsorships, et cetera, and I know they're always looking for new ways to gain revenue at Pembina Place. And the business community has been absolutely fantastic with us in buying into that program. So that flexibility is built into the fees and charges bylaw. And quite frankly, I don't think it was built into the fees and charges policy in the same way that it was in the book. So I think that's one of the positives of this.
And I just want to provide clarification too. The fees and charges bylaw comes into effect January 1, 2026, the same as the budget, like with the previous year too. I know there was a bit of confusion with specifically like the arena rates too, and how there's different rates for the first half of the season and the second half, and that's because of how it falls in line with the calendar year for the fees and charges. So I just wanted to clarify that the fees and charges bylaw is in effect January 1st. Because we discussed it during budget, and that was a new change. And
It was
Miranda
April.
can correct me if I'm wrong, but that was 2 budget seasons ago, so not 26, but 25 was the first year. that
But
we
in
started
the fees
doing
and
it.
charges bylaw, what we did is we said from January 1st to this, or to April, it's this, and then in September, it reverts to that. So same kind of effect.
Yeah, the money's the same, it's just, yeah.
Same effect.
And I think the biggest part of that confusion was that we had, for a number of years, that April 1st deadline for a number of different requirements that council had to call in favor for skateboard equipment or something, whatever it was. But we had that April 1st deadline for a number of different things, so that's why it had that confusion. And I think that's exactly why it got changed, like you say, a couple of years ago. Does that help, Councillor Olson?
Clear as mud, same as budget.
Councillor Spicer, go ahead.
I have a question on the sponsorship side of it, and just, I'm gonna use this Pembina Place itself, it comes up for sponsorship every so often. Are we limiting you in any way by saying that sponsorship is X amount of dollars? Do we even have that in there? Or is it a negotiation with them? I just wanna, I don't know that process.
Mayor, members, council, so that's a great point. We don't have that as the fees and charges because it is a separate agreement that we have with.
Contract.
It's a separate contract that we have with.
Negotiation too.
And it is actually up for renewal because it comes due December 31st, I believe, of this year.
October, if I remember correctly, but we're already in negotiations with Pembina.
So Pembina's already contacted us and.
I was just using an example, but, yeah.
Well, that's, and again, and I think that's another reason why keeping it in the fees and charges and through agreements is, it gives us more flexibility than the current policy does, because it, you know, it kind of ties our hands. And like I said, I'm gonna give big kudos here to the staff of Pembina Place. If there's something they can sell there, they're gonna sell it. And if somebody and, you know, some of the things where businesses coming to us and say, hey, I'd like to put advertising here.
The back of the seats.
Yeah. We'll sell you a piece of whatever you want in there, pretty much.
Where you're willing to pay.
Anything further on the first motion with regards to policy 913.1? Not seeing anything, I'll call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Policy 2, go ahead, Councillor
I move
Spicer.
that the Committee of the Whole support administrative developing an administrative directive for corporate sponsorships with sponsorship rates to be addressed through the annual fees and charges bylaw.
Discussion. Go ahead,
I
Councillor.
just think that the town is charging any type of fees, that they should all be in that fees and charges bylaw, period. And that it's transparent, it's there, right there, not in this policy or that policy. So I think the committee's working on this is moving forward in a very good direction, for sure.
And I think that ties it nicely in a package where you start talking budget and annual fees and charges and administrative directives. I think that makes a nice, transparent. Anything further for motion number 2? Seeing anything, I'll call that question. All in favor? opposition, that's carried. Thank you. 8.4.1 is gone off the agenda. 8.5, policy 913, permanent place corporate policy rescission.
The same one.
I've got that twice on my agenda, sorry.
Yeah.
I won't discuss it a second time. How's that? Reports. Anything through council? Any councillors with reports? Nothing yet? Okay. 9.1, Rose Ridge Regional Curbside Initiative. Who's taking that one? Go ahead, Ms. Dingley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the purpose of this report is to provide some supplemental information following Rose Ridge's presentation on the Regional Waste Services Initiative. So last week, Susan provided a very comprehensive overview from her side of this initiative, and so I wanted to provide some specific financial information as it appears on our bills and just receive some feedback. So administration recommends that council review the presented information and just provide feedback on this initiative before we go forward with the next council meeting. So I've attached the summary of the Q&A session that happened on April 9th. I've attached that a few times previously. I'm just trying to keep all the information in the same place, as well as the presentation from Rose Ridge last week. So further on to discussion, breaking down just the fees as they present on our bills. So the garbage collection residential fee is $12.25, and the base fee is $8 per month for residential collection. So this brings the total charge to $20.25 as it appears in the utility bill. So this was part of Susan's presentation as well. So that's the backup for that dollar amount there. So the $12.25 garbage collection fee is comprised of $8 for regular waste and $4.25 for organics. So that $8 base fee, it's a fixed fee of $7 plus the UCI charge of $1 per month. So the UCI charge is transferred to the general utility reserves each year. The difference between the garbage reserve, or the garbage charges, the $12.25, and the actual cost invoice from GFL is transferred to reserves each year as well. So for 2026, the budgeted reserve transfers are as follows: $10,836 for UCI and $56,535 the fee transfer. So a reminder that fee transfer, that was a result of the renegotiation of the garbage contract at a lower rate. So we took the net difference there and we transferred it to reserves, to our general utility reserve for future expenditures, which we've been using pretty heavily these last few years. So the cost of residential waste collection, waste and organics collection is as follows. So we have the units, 915 residential units for waste and organics, the cost per unit, and then the total costs per month for your reference. And just for note too, some extra information. So administration can decide to continue to receive invoices from GFL or have GFL invoice Rose Ridge and then Rose Ridge invoice the town for waste collection services. Rose Ridge at this time does not have a preference and will coordinate based on the town's preferences. And if I'm being honest, we don't necessarily have a preference either. There's no financial implications at this time based on the information provided by Rose Ridge. Internal impacts, so there's minimal internal impacts. With time, we anticipate a reduction in calls from residents regarding waste collection concerns and inquiries, as they will be redirected to Rose Ridge. But as with the dump, we're still receiving calls on what the dump hours are and when it can be located, what they can bring, but it's slowly being weeded out. So we'll always remain that first point of contact, but we do anticipate there being a reduction overall. But with the point of contact changing from administration to Rose Ridge, communication strategy would need to be developed with Rose Ridge to educate the residents on this change. So administration would likely remain the first point of contact, as mentioned, for residents who have missed pickups, questions about the schedule, missing bins, etc. But again, with time, we see that dwindling. And it would just really improve communications as well. They would receive consistent communication. If there's any gaps in our knowledge, Rose Ridge would really just be there to give them like really solid information on what services they offer. And so I'm sure you're wondering, like, what's in it for Rose Ridge? And if not, like, that's what I was wondering. So I asked Susan, and she mentioned that because like with this contract, sorry, I don't wanna like paraphrase her too much, but, to pull up her email. So the benefit to the Rose Ridge is to control the waste streams. So the agreement would guarantee that the waste would come to their facilities, Rose Ridge facilities. And I guess that isn't always the case currently, so that was good to know. In addition, the Growth and Organics program would reduce their methane generation and reduce the cost of processing waste. So if you're wondering what was in it for Rose Ridge, that is the information we were given. But yeah, I'd love to hear if there's any gaps in the information that's been presented so far, any concerns from council, additional information we can provide, but that concludes my report.
I'll just start with Councillor Smith as our representative on the Rose Ridge Commission. Did you have any comments you wanted to make with respect to this?
No, I think that, looking at the big picture, I think it's positive. Now, I am, after saying that, I think at first you'll probably get more calls, because there's going to be concerns and questions. So, it's whatever administration feels would be the most efficient for them. That's the only concern I had.
Okay, good. Councillor Spicer?
The real key I see to this is the communication to the residents of somehow it'd be nice if all those bins had a big phone number on the front of them or something that could be stuck to them when this rolls out, so that this is who you call now if you got issues, and you put that sticker on every one of those bins. Even if it takes
Great idea.
if it takes one of our staff 3 weeks to get around to get them all, but even if you got 90% of them, that would eventually lead that whole process out, right?
Great idea.
3 young persons with spray cans
No.
and a stencil. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
Lost my train of thought.
Go ahead, Councillor Olson.
Okay, just playing with the numbers here, we're basing everything off the fact that we're paying $20.25 for garbage collection. The $8 that we're charging as a base fee, I know $1 goes to a reserve, and the rest goes to,
Covers the overhead of administering the program.
would we have an overhead?
Because we get that 500 free, which isn't free, we get a bill for that, right? There's that in there and a few other things.
500 free is really not that expensive.
I know, but I'm just saying, there's things that come out of it, and then it gets, well, there's 56,000 that was transferred above that wasn't spent to them.
But do we need a garbage reserve when we're not gonna be in charge of garbage?
Putting it into garbage reserve.
But why charge extra for something that we don't have to, is what I'm saying. Because I see a number in here later on in one of her presentations of $7.45 per pickup. So that's $5 cheaper than what we're paying. So why are we maintaining $20 a month when it's $5 cheaper for pickup? It's cheaper for the administrative fees. So why are we maintaining $20 a month? My question.
So this can absolutely be something that we can discuss at budget. So my assumption is that when you say we, you mean we the resident, not we administration or we council. So if you'll recall during the budget presentations, we looked at utilities, or we looked at each stream, like gas, water, sewer individually, but we also looked at them collectively as well, and how basically any surplus in any of those areas all got funneled into the general utility reserve to help fund all of our significant projects. So garbage is one. If we were to reduce the transfers there, the general utility specifically, we are using more from it than we are putting in, and we have been for sure for 2026, and I can look into it for previous periods as well. I just know that I looked at that more recently. And so it could be something, if we're gonna reduce a cost there, we might have to pass it on somewhere else to ensure that we're still replenishing those reserves as we use them. So we can get creative in terms of
And it's just
strategies
that's something
there.
that has to be passed on to the residents. Because if they find out just by looking here tonight, you know, they're saying $7.25, we're paying $12.25, but we're not gonna reduce. You know, like, we're not talking about reducing our rates or anything. We're talking about maintaining, but yet we're getting $5 tip per household extra, plus the $8 extra. But it's gotta be communicated to the people, because, I mean, you don't have to go far to find out things are getting expensive, and if you could save $10 or $20 a month, then why wouldn't you? You know what I'm saying? It's,
Go ahead, Mr.
I know it's the big happy family, the big ball of money, but when you look at it individually,
Ms. Tingley, go ahead.
These are really, really valid points, but I just want to be clear that through this whole initiative, nothing has changed in terms of the inputs. So GFL's cost does increase minorly, like year over year with inflationary factors. But we haven't charged what we haven't changed the charge to the customers. So we anticipate at some point there is we're gonna slowly lose those margins there. And so instead of clawing back the cost to the residents to reduce it, and then all of a sudden in 2 or 3 years' time the price goes up, now we're essentially saving for a rainy day. And it's sort of that overall strategy that we've been talking about the last 3 years about how we're really trying to normalize cost. But I also hear you in saying that we need to be transparent in where the money is coming from. So I guess it just both sides of it.
Go ahead.
yeah, because I understood this was a pass-through. Whatever GFL charged us is pass-through rate to the residents, same as our gas and our water, direct pass-through, right? We have,
Sorry, when Susan presented it, you mean?
no, when our rates that we have with GFL, it's, from what I understood, and I haven't been told anything different in years, that it was pass-through. Because we get charged $2 a gigajoule for water, or for gas, we put our rate riders on it, we charge the residents $4.50 or whatever it is.
It
And
hasn't
that's
been
the
a
way-
pass-through since I started.
So,
So,
Okay, Mr. Van Buell, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, so this is a bit before my time, so I think this came in the first budget that I was here. There was actually a reduction in rates negotiated, and at that time, council kept the rates exactly where they were. And that reduction is what created that reserve.
And it's a reserve transfer that's been approved during the budget process every year, specifically the garbage transfer.
And I'll take that back to the fact there was a finance person running the operation at the time, and her presentation at that time was just that there was a negotiated change in the rate, but we maintained the rate to the resident and created the reserve with the balance. And that's been in place for umpteen years, based on that discussion, but go ahead.
okay, that explains the 12. Where's the $8 going? You know, there was the gap between the 12 and what we were paying GFL going to the reserve. And the $8, 7 of it was, or 1 of it was going to the reserve. So where's the other 7?
Yeah, I'm just gonna open up my presentation from last year, because I'm
'Cause I can't remember, you know, like originally when that was all brought on, it was for administration. For the administration of the contract, so on and so forth.
and we're still gonna be the point of contact for that.
Yeah, so
But, see, now I'm confused. If we're the point of contact for it, then why are we hiring Rosevich to look after it?
hang on. So first, I wasn't here and Ms. Tingley wasn't here, so let us do some,
Yeah, I know,
some
but-
research before we start.
No.
Because I want to find out exactly what the rate was and what it got negotiated to. Because that may explain that $7, or at least part of it. And then on the administration that we still have to do, that Rose Ridge is not going to do, is we still have to bill our residents. The only thing that Rose Ridge is gonna do is bill us for the total GFL contract. We still have to collect from our residents, we still have to send out that monthly bill.
I understand that, but it's similar to what they're charging us for tipping fees. There's still a bill coming from Rose Ridge to Redwater and Redwater out to the residents. So,
Councillor Smith.
Well, wasn't that an option though? Rose Ridge may do the billing?
but then there's two
Not to the
bills.
Not to the
residents.
residents. Not to the
I
residents.
thought it was two. Well, no.
Go ahead, Ms. Tingley.
And so the only part of this that changes is we may even still pay GFL. The only thing is Rose Ridge will be the point, instead of us taking the calls for missed bins, because right now we take the calls for missed bins, and then we pass them on to GFL. Like, we're just like an in-between. So it's really unnecessary. And we're still gonna, like, as Councillor Smith said too, we're still likely gonna see like an influx of calls because it's a change. But we're still collecting all that information because it's not just garbage that the residents receive from us. We have to manage the other utilities as well. So there's still the administrative portion of that as well. And the fixed fee is to cover the administration portion of the monthly invoicing, the move-ins, move-outs.
So you can collect some more information and bring it back to council.
And specifically, like, information regarding
I
when.
ignored this side of the table, my apologies. Is there any questions off of this side?
Just a simple one. How big an issue is it, missed bins? Like, do you get 10 calls a week, or do you get 1 call a week?
Garbage is usually a pretty busy morning. There's there's missed bins, whether there be a miscommunication as to when the bins are supposed to be out in the morning. But it's I would say anywhere from like 5 to 10 calls, depending on missed bins. Maybe a bin is too heavy.
So Friday mornings.
It's Friday mornings. It's just Friday mornings are a little silly, but
So it's not a real big issue.
it's not mild.
Just for those that didn't get it picked up. Go ahead, Councillor Smith.
A couple of comments. I understand what Councillor Olson's saying, but I guess to be perfectly honest, my opinion is, we need to put $56,000 to good use. I'd rather see it come out of this account than have to raise our taxes, another 1.8. And the other thing is, I was quite surprised, because the amount of tonnage that goes into Rose Ridge dictates how much the revenue is. Not all of our garbage from Redwater goes to Rose Ridge, even the residential. And that really surprised me. GFL has free rein to take it wherever they can get the best deal. And under the negotiations and the contract, that would all change. Everything collected, with the hope that in the future, even the commercial stuff collected would go there.
Rose Ridge would be the decider.
Go
of
ahead,
where-
Councillor Spicer.
And Rose Ridge would decide where it was going at that point, even if they decided to change it.
Well, we're still a ways away from that.
We are, but in the future, if they ever decided to close that cell, but then they would choose.
Okay. So we look forward to some more information coming back to council.
So my understanding is we wanna know exactly what that $8 is, came from.
Like, when it came, when it started.
And what it consists of, like, how did it get to that $8? That base fee? How did our charge get to where it was?
It's all base fees. I mean, garbage was no different than sewer.
Councillor Olson.
Well, I'd just like a better financial breakdown, because by the sounds of it, we're still doing all the work, and the only thing Rose Ridge is doing is negotiating a contract. We're still getting a tipping fee bill from them right now. We're gonna get that, plus our contract for pickup added onto the bill to the town. We're still administering the bills to the residents. So the only benefit that I can see is we're not negotiating with GFL or any of the other collection agencies for our contract. That's it, that I can see from this.
Councillor Smith.
And that's partially true. I mean,
I'd say
in
100%.
discussions that they've had already, there's quite a substantial savings by everybody grouping together. And you'd be guaranteed for X number, 5 years, we'll say, with no increases.
We're not seeing it here.
Councillor Spicer.
You will see it there in the future, because that will come back to us and we'll be able to change, because we're in charge of this, whatever the 2025 is. That's just what we're putting onto residents, so we can change that if we want. The other is that we will no longer have to deal with the empty bin, or the missed bins. So it's not just the negotiations, there's a few other administration things, and I know it's not much, but it all adds up. But again, in the end, the biggest one you're talking about is the 2025. In the end, we can set that wherever we want. That's just where it is now, and that's what Rose Ridge is basing their presentation on, is that it doesn't change we have the opportunity, if we want to, we can put it down to the 12.25 if we want.
But other than that,
My understanding, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Van Buell, is that there is some increase in services as well, correct? There's twice a month organics and curbside pickup that goes into that as well, into that whole package. Is that not correct?
So, Mr. Mayor,
Which is weekly,
Yeah.
until October, and then it reverts to once a month. But,
twice a month.
Twice a month.
Our presentation said twice a month through the winter.
And then they were gonna have curbside pickup of
so
yes.
our, so the organics collection is one of the increases in service level. The other, and the one that I think probably affects our residents, not the most, but it's a one-time a year program, but it has a big impact, and that is, right now we have a big bin event where residents have to take everything, to wherever we place the bins. In our case, Pembina Place. The program, costs that have been given to us and what GFL has said is, we will no longer have a big bin event, we'll have curbside. We'll have I forget what they call it,
Roundup.
well, not the roundup, but the, large item pickup, and it'll be curbside, instead of the resident having to take it to Pembina Place, all you gotta do is get it to your curb. And that'll be a once a year, and then it'll get picked up, by GFL.
Like happened today.
Yeah, and from a cost perspective, I know when we costed that out, there was a reason we went to the big bin event, because we figured it would be $15,000 to $18,000, and I think it's come in at about 12. On an annual basis, that's what the big bin event costs us for just the disposal, and that doesn't include any of our staff time, for manning the bins. If I remember correct, and hold me to the fire on this, but the large item pickup at curbside was gonna be right around $50K. And that is why we went, whoa, hang on. That's a big chunk of change.
Go ahead, Councillor Spicer.
Well, and the other thing that's changed this last year was the whole recycle program. They no longer charged for that. Anything that ends up in a blue bag or in the blue bin, that charge has been completely dropped off so if they can, the more they can stick in there, the better too.
And if I'm not mistaken, the big bin event we held last year, the costs for that were paid out of that reserve, correct?
That is correct. Yep.
So that was one of the non-tax benefits of the extra on the garbage. Okay. And you will undertake to put together
We'll put together
a timeline,
a timeline, we'll figure out where that went.
numbers.
I will say it won't be for June 2nd, because I know Ms. Tingley's gonna be gone here right away, and she will not have time to get that done before Friday. So we'll probably target the third Tuesday, of June, not the third council meeting, the third Tuesday of June, to have that forward. Because we do have a bit of a timeline coming up with Rose Ridge. They do want to know on July 1st who's in and who's out, so they start to negotiate that GFL contract.
Thank you, good discussion, good discussion. Moving on, we're into the operations report, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Bear with me. I've something going on with my throat that's giving me a little bit of trouble tonight.
Push yourself if,
Okay, so I'll, as I do most times I present this report, I'll highlight some of the high points, and if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them. Okay, so project updates. Reservoir building pump replacement. So I pen amended mine. You haven't seen it yet, but the generator is now on its way to us from Ontario, and we are really looking forward to see that hit the ground. I got that phone call this morning, so I thought I would pen amend it here and pass that information on to council. The CFEB grant reporting and closeout have been completed. Gas line replacement, we had a preliminary project discussion in relation to our utility right-of-way, and we had a site visit occurred on the 8th of May. just waiting for some feedback from our contractor, and we'll see where we're at as far as that goes right at the moment. In relation to sanitary spot repairs, engineering discussions are ongoing. We are discussing a couple of final points in relation to one of those spot repairs. Permanent place accessibility lift. The project site visit and construction meetings are ongoing. They have visited site. We're just waiting for some final numbers. Site meeting for street overlay projects, being 44th Street and 54th Ave, as in the capital budget, is scheduled for the coming week. We just want to confirm some pricing and firm up the whole schedule among some other pieces of that project. In relation to sidewalk replacement, RFQ is closed, with O'Hanlon again being the successful bidder. Sidewalk map has been produced, and we're having some discussions with Safe Sidewalks as well in relation to grinding around town. So we may look to have an assessment done, and that way we can run a very firm project for the next couple of years, but we're in talks at the moment. On to operations and public works. Our Kubota M5111 is in for its 1,000-hour service, which is a pretty major service, but not too bad. In relation to our backhoe and our Bobcat skid steer, new tyres were installed on the skid steer, moving away from the standard heavy-duty bar tread, which is a all-service lug tyre, to a non-directional block tread. The advantage of this is the tyres are non-directional, so they won't suffer the same wear. You'll also have less scrubbing in the lugs and breakage. The other big piece of this is they have the same traction forwards and backwards, which most directional tyres don't have. So if you're under heavy load in reverse, you'll have the same horsepower and traction. So it should, and obviously we won't suffer the same scrubbing that we would with the traditional bar lug tyre. So we'll have those on this year, and we'll keep a close eye on it and see what the wear looks like on them, but I expect them to be much better. We don't do a lot of work in soupy surfaces, mud, so we don't really have use for the heavy bar tread, so we'll see how we go. In relation to the backhoe, it was taken into service due to a noticeable issue developing in the front end. Once they did an inspection, the steering assembly in particular, steering knuckles, kingpins upper and lower, and tie rod assemblies, and even possibly the housing and yokes are heavily worn and will need to be replaced. It's an expensive repair bill, to the tune of upwards between 10 and 14K. So we are looking at options for that. We may get a second opinion based on that price. But the other thing we're investigating is controlling the speed of that piece of equipment and having it governed is the best way to put it. We may have to do that electronically, but we're looking at options on how we can do that. Commercial trucks, the tandem truck was inspected and required all 4 airbags to be replaced, as well as an air tank strap that had snapped. So that one's in for a little bit of repair as well. Street sweeping has been completed as of May 9th. As you'll notice, back alley maintenance campaign has begun. The soil conditioner has been out and moving around, and so far we've got some pretty good feedback from a couple of emails. Line painting and crack sealing planning is underway, and the sidewalk replacement map, as I alluded to earlier, has been produced. Planning a survey of the utility right-of-way behind 53A Ave, as we're just receiving a lot of calls in relation to trees in that back utility right-of-way. There's a lot of tall poplar back there, and as we know, poplar are famous for falling over. It seems to be their favorite pastime, and we receive quite the volume of calls, and we also receive a lot of calls after a windstorm when a tree has come down and impacted a fence or something along those lines. So we are going to conduct a survey in that back area just to see exactly where our line is and exactly where our utility right-of-way finishes and the neighboring portion of land begins. We're double checking pins, see if they're still there, and we'll go from there. So, and as a result of that, we may have some operations projects in the 2027 budget to handle some of those trees if that ends up being the case. So we've stepped it out a few times. Yeah, it's a hair-splitting decision sometimes, and we'd like to make that a little bit more formal. So
If I could, Garnet, I think there's a second purpose for us doing that. The trees are certainly our most imminent one. But we do know that we have a number of encroachments, yeah, we'll call it that, on that utility right away. And so getting the survey done, getting the pins located, will kind of make it a black and white kind of decision, you know, where we're at. Because not only will it give the private property line, but it will also give us what the north side of that looks like as well. We know that the trees don't necessarily, how do I put it, stop on the right of way. Some of those trees are not ours, to be blunt. So, but it'll help us, you know, as we go through our encroachments, and we deal with the projects, or the project that is upcoming with that gas line replacement. And again, that gas line replacement isn't next year or the year after, but we will start making our way around that as that line gets replaced in, I guess, sections.
okay, so moving on to utilities, gas. We had a new service installed in the industrial park, 2 new services installed in the Willows, and you've seen the developments there. May 11th to 13th, we had Riceco Corrosion Services on site to conduct our annual CP survey, and you saw the report is attached if you wanted to read all of that. That's some light reading for sure. Water meters continue to fail at a rate of around about 12 meters per month, 25 meters left in stock. We're getting quotes at the moment on an additional 100 meters. It may be a future revision to budget. We're kind of in discussions at the moment, but the issue here is, as you know, it's a 15 to 20 year life cycle, and they're all in that period at the moment. So we're having a little bit of trouble with failures, but there's not a lot we can do about it given the life cycle of the meters.
Sorry. Just if I might, because there is a life cycle end for the parts we're going to be using for the replacement.
Yep.
Are we mapping those at the same time so that we have a future guess as to what needs to get done?
Absolutely. So everyone we are replacing is being accounted for, and that gives us the ability to, in the future, map that life cycle out and that replacement a little bit better. It's one of the really hard parts is when you do bulk replacements like this, you have to deal with it as a bulk replacement down the line. And as Allegra had alluded to before, we are starting to map this out so we can normalize that cost across the next 10 years. And that's one of the things we're trying to achieve with the rates that we're putting in place, so we can not have this, okay, here we're at 15 to 20 years, now we've got $200,000 worth of meter replacements, and then in 15 to 20 years we got $200,000 worth of meter replacements. We're trying to normalize that a little bit across those years. Will we have some blips? Absolutely, because they do fail out of cycle, but generally speaking, we're just trying to normalize that cost a little bit across X amount of years, and so therefore we are tracking them.
Maybe council can help me. I'm not exactly sure, but we did that as a bulk install, did we not? Wasn't that the program to install the ERTs?
I think the ERTs were, but not the meters.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're just trying to avoid a couple of really big hits to our budget.
Okay. Go ahead.
How many more are left to be replaced?
Yeah, so that number I don't have on me right at the moment, but I can certainly get it. As we go along, because it wasn't tracked originally, we're gathering that data as we go along, which is a little bit unfortunate, which is what we're trying to avoid in the future. So what we want to do is we want to start that asset management cycle of those meters now, so we can get away from this in the future. Data is where it's at. So. Recently we had an operator certify preparation in April, and he's working on his level 1 water exam. So we're filling some gaps, getting some cross training done, and trying to make sure that we have business continuity and training continuity in all departments. So on to wastewater. Lagoon spring release was completed. Sewer augers are back in season at a rate of 2 to 3 augers a week, something that's a little bit ongoing. We also flushed downtown and trouble areas and any areas with high solids or known grease built up areas. We try to get around and get ahead of those before they become an issue. In relation to stormwater, we're compiling a list of culverts that will need replacing in 2027, as well as catch cans that may require some maintenance as well. There's a few of those. We were looking at a couple today, so little bits and pieces here and there, but all part of the maintenance cycle. On to Pamela Place. Received our first revenue sharing check from Live Barn for $222.20. I thought I would throw that out there. It's not a big amount of money, but you know what? It's brought a little bit of joy to the community, and people are the fact that we got $222.20 in revenue shows that someone's spreading the word and people are signing up for it. So it was a good addition to the arena, and while it's a little comical to be in the report, I thought it was worth putting in. So. Ram Lifts visited site at Pamela Place, obviously, to conduct preliminary discussions and citing the wheelchair lift, the installation in the bleachers. Curling pad swept and a ramp put in for us for the ability for us to store our machinery through summer. Just keeps it away from the back end of the field house there, where it can get a bit stinky sometimes, especially with rotting grass under the decks and things like that. Big Bin event scheduled for the end of May 29 to June 1st, as we know, and ARMA, as we saw today, are moving around and collecting items from the curbside round pickup, which has worked out very well, actually. Facility rentals, the usage reports are there, so I won't go through too much of that. The field house is open daily for pickleball, 9:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., and we had a birthday party May 2nd, which is pretty cool. We haven't had a birthday party in the field house before, so that was good. Parks and beautification, summer students started on May 4th. OHS onboarding was completed, and on OJT, on the job training, is ongoing. Garbage and townwide cleanup have been conducted, including ditches, boulevards, parks, and green spaces. We had all our summer students out this year picking in the ditches and things along those lines, which worked out pretty well. Ultra Pest Control have done their first round of gopher control. We made sure we got in there early this year. As soon as we saw those little buggers moving around, we had them come in because you know, we want to get ahead of that little piece, and hopefully we've stopped them in their tracks this year. But they've got a 6-month warranty. They will be back to do a second application because they're pretty hardy, those little fellas. So we'll see if we can get rid of them. Onto the pool. The lifeguards started on May 4th and got right to work preparing the pool building and trailer for the year, which is fantastic. The old lockers have been removed and the new lockers installed to increase security for patrons. The pool was drained and cleaned in preparation for startup process. We did a little bit different this year. The cleanup was conducted in-house by our guards instead of having Automated Aquatics come out and do it. We like to have Automated Aquatics come out, but lately scheduling has become an issue, and it's causing us a little bit of delay every now and then. So this year we got a recommendation from them on chemicals, things along those lines, and the kids were down in the pool, and I shouldn't call them kids, the summer students were down in the pool, and had their Tyvek suits on, and they gave that thing a polish, and it looks fantastic. Probably whiter than I've seen it in a while. So looking forward to seeing the finished product when they've got it filled and it's ready to go. We also had Jackie come out this year and do some basin repairs. The big thing they looked after this year was the coping. So the coping at the top of the basin, it every now and then chips, and last year it had a couple of chips that were pretty sharp. So we got them in this year to repair the chips and make sure it took any sharp edges off. So we're in good condition there, which is great. On the facilities, leaks were...
Sorry, startup date?
Next week. Yeah, we're so we do know we're a week behind. Generally, in reality, more due to weather than anything else. The startup's gone pretty smooth. The equipment's gone smooth. The kids are all in place. Of note, there's another pool in the local area that is on the same time schedule as us. So we're looking pretty good. We're not we're not going to get the race of who's open first. We're pretty much at the same timing at the moment, which is good because it goes to show we've both had the same weather issues. So yeah, it's worked out pretty well. Facilities, leaks were repaired by West Point Roofing in the dance studio, Overtime Sports Bar, and Town Office. During their inspection and maintenance, they recommended we should consider major roof repair or replacement on Building 13. We've obviously requested a quote for major repairs and for capital planning. We were aware that there was some issue with the material that's on the roof there. But at the end of the day, we're going to get a quote and find out what that looks like for us, and we'll plan ahead as necessary. Campground, as you saw this year, the campground was in effect before we had the dump station open. There were people in there right at the actually before the end of the last snow dump, and so far we've had 36 nights booked for the month of May, which is pretty good. So year over year, we've actually seen a pickup in the campground, which is great. Community services, protecting yourself from fraud and scams in relation to programs. May 7th, free program for the community. Had 21 attendees. Country line dancing, which is on right now. Offering 2 sessions with 2 time options, and they had 28 registered for that. That program has really kicked off. Summer Pickleball has got 6 registered, and the Rain Barrel program had 12 barrels, which is also fantastic. On to events, volunteer appreciation, 103 registered and 98 attended, which is fantastic. May 8th townwide cleanup, as I spoke to earlier, 6 volunteers plus the Lions Club, summer staff pitched in along with Redwater School, which is fantastic. Planning B is planned for May 28th, senior celebration for June 4th, the registration is now open, and the golf tournament is on August 6th, and as you may have caught on our website and on Facebook today, the registration is going to open pretty soon. So schedule there is looking good. FCSS partnership programs, Redwater Rec Society partnership with their Gearing Up bike event, which was previously the bike rodeo. And in relation to community info and referrals, lots of referrals this month for food insecurities. This has just been an ongoing piece. And a little bit of help with government forms, which is something that the ladies are there for, which is fantastic. Grant sponsorships and other Secure Energy have pitched in as a platinum sponsor for the golf tournament at a rate of 5K, which is great. OHS, our OHS leader Jen, has been working to complete the onboarding initiation of our new Safety Hub training software for each of our staff. The software allows our staff to do refresher training in common safety related items such as ladders, slips, trips and falls, among many other courses. There's any number of hundreds of courses on there, which is fantastic. We'll assign them to our guys at the start of the year so they can do some refresher training. It's pretty commonplace in a lot of industries these days. And the attachments are obviously the facility usage reports, and as I alluded to the last report I did, the annual cathodic protection survey is on there for council's view and review.
Questions? Go ahead, Councillor Wall.
The cathodic protection, is that repairs for those 6 or 8? Is that going to be an in-house thing, or is that something we can have to contract out?
For the majority of them will be in-house.
Okay.
And we've been doing them a little over year, so every time we get a CP survey and we get the report, we pick off as many as we can, and obviously tier 1 we want to get on.
Yeah.
Just to follow up to that, if I might, one of the things that surfaced a while ago at the Water Commission was one of our lines needed repairs to it because the cathodic protection of an adjacent line interfered with our cathodic protection. Is that an issue within the town because of that spider web of pipes we got, or
Not
not?
generally, to be really honest. We haven't seen too many, so that would create a short in the 2 circuits, right? We haven't actually seen too many of those. Our most common ones are either someone's painted over a flange connection and they have the rubber in between them to stop it from going into the building, but if you paint over the top of it a lot of the time, it'll ground out through the building and it kills your CP. The other one is your beds or your anodes just get spent.
Yeah.
And they're done. So they're our big ones. Sometimes you'll get a stretch in a line from ground movement and it'll break a line and cause a short there as well. So, but they're predominantly our major issues here.
Councillor Cowley, go ahead.
On the sidewalk repair, I had someone out in my neighborhood asking if the repairs would be done out there, and I noticed you referred to a map a couple times. is it produced or is it?
Yeah, so we produce it and supply it to the contractor that's doing the repairs. We could certainly supply that to council. That's not an issue.
Good.
Yeah, as I said, every time I come here, I talk about more and more transparency, and I supply every report I get. So if council wishes to see the map that's produced for the town and what's going to be repaired, I have no issues with bringing that forward.
That's what I would like, yes, thank you.
Okay, then we'll make a note of that and we'll bring it forward to the next meeting. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Cross that one off my list. I had the same thing.
Yeah, I apologize. I actually didn't think of that, but at the end of the day, yeah, we'll supply that map through and let council see it for sure.
Anything else for Mr. Davison? Go ahead.
Again, this might just be my, being a newbie. All the pictures of the cathodic protection, is it something that you can see physically just by looking at a meter? Like, is that what all the pictures are for?
Yeah, not normally. A lot of the time they just take a picture of the location so we know exactly where it is, because a lot of the time they'll say something along the lines of short circuit at this riser, and I'll just take a picture of it, and that way our guys go out and they have a look. Some of them, occasionally you'll see if there happens to be a circuit or it's painted over, you might be able to catch it with the naked eye, but a lot of the time it's just for site recognition. Yeah.
Thank you.
Trees, I had two questions, two comments. One, Mr. Van Buren, I know there was some correspondence with a legal agency with regards to a tree scenario. Have we heard anything back from that agency?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, not from the, indirectly, yes. We've heard from the leaseholder, who got the problem put on them. I've been going by the site. I haven't seen anything done on it. And again, I think our direction was have somebody look at it or take it down. So if they've had somebody look at it and they've said, hey, the trees are fine, they don't need to be taken down, then that's theirs. I do know the one set of trees is awfully close to the property line. And the reason that's of interest for council is we actually have a road right of way that kind of goes down and then stops, and then the field is kind of, there. Our belief right now, without having a survey done, having a surveyor come out and find the property line and mark it out, we believe the trees are on the private property, they're not in the road allowance. If when the road keeps going, at some point in time, then those trees will obviously have to go. But right now, it's our belief that they're on private property.
The other question or comment I have is 55th Street south from the community garden on the west side of the roadway. There are some huge poplars there that don't have any life to them, apparently, from what I can see. And that's an active roadway, and I know there's some vehicles that park precariously close to those trees. Might be something for us to take a look at with our arborist when they're by, just to see what options exist.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just pulled that up on our GIS, just to have a look. That's on the edge of the golf course there. But absolutely, yeah, that's already been earmarked. So we've got a couple of things we want to have a look in there. We just want to give a little bit of time for to see if anything sprouts. It's been such a late spring, even trees weren't even taking leaves until about a week ago. So we just want to get a look at what exactly it looks like in there, and then when our arborist comes around. As I alluded to earlier, we've tried to section town out into a 1, 2, 3, 4. I will bring that through to council at the next COW meeting. But so we're going to start moving through town in different quadrants.
My last one was, and Councillor Smith, you can correct me if my memory is faulty here, but if I'm not mistaken, when we had that flooding in town a number of years ago, there was an approach made to the folks on the south side as to what options existed and what have you, and at that point in time, we got told, no, everything's good. So I understand that may have changed recently.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, there was a reason I didn't speak to that point, but so I appreciate you bringing it up. But at the end of the day, yeah, that little piece on the south side there, it depends on who you talk to as to whether they were approached or they weren't approached. And some say they weren't, some say they were. And at the end of the day, to be really honest, we would have some very serious problems with any construction in that area. There is a number of pipelines, including the water co-op's line running through right behind the boundary of people's houses there. So there is a setback there. There will be a setback there for a utility right away regardless. Depending on whose line it is, I'm just trying to think whose line it is. Long run, for example, is 30 feet on either side. So you're looking at 60 feet setback to begin with. So you would have water coming through.
No matter what.
Yeah, and that's kind of a problem, right? The other issue is we did speak to a couple of residents informally, unofficially, and they all have gates in the back of their yards there. Their property finishes right at the beginning of their neighbour's property. So effectively there is no alley back there, there is nothing. But you will see there are RVs parked back there, and people are driving on that right away. So obviously we're not in the business of running to an oil company or anything along those lines, but at the end of the day, people should be aware of it. But and when I received some complaints in the spring melt there, I did mention that there is a utility right away back there, and you should probably be careful how you access it. But yeah, so.
Okay. Yeah. Anything else through to Mr. Davis on his report? Thank you very much. Thank you. And like yourself, Councillor Cowley, I found the cathodic protection very in-depth. Understood every word of it. Where are we here? We've got corporate services. It's your turn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So I'll start off with assessment and taxation. So I have the April 2026 balances compared to March of this year. You'll notice some positive news here. There's some movement in the balances from 2022 and later and through to 2025. So I suspect that was partially triggered by phone calls made during this month. So as you'll remember, or as you recall, the tax notification list was prepared at the end of March. So we had 21 properties put on notification for 2026, which means they're up for auction in 2027, compared to 16 in the previous year. Since the last committee of the whole meeting, administration has reached out to all of the property owners who were on the notification list who had not paid the minimum balances. So this resulted in payment of several of those. Also had some conversations about payment methods available and just like overall options available to the residents to avoid the auction process in 2027. So of the 21 properties, I'm happy to report that there are only 12 remaining on the auction list at this time for next year. And so we're going to continue to work with the property owners to reduce that number further as the year progresses. So bringing us to 2025. So the properties placed on notification last year are for auction this year. So there's 3 properties remaining on that list, and these properties are being appraised this week as we speak. So this RFD for minimum bids, and the auction date will be during the June 16th council meeting. All four current tax agreements are being adhered to. So one more from the last report, as that was approved last council meeting and it's been signed. The 2026 combined tax and assessment notices were mailed out on Thursday, May 21st. So just a huge thank you to Liz for all of her hard work to help hit this deadline, and to the corporate services team as a whole for fielding much of the reception duties while we focused on the completion of these notices. So in previous committee of the whole meetings, there's been some comments, some concerns regarding the aged property tax receivable amounts. So administration has engaged in conversations with both municipal affairs and legal to discuss options available to address these aging balances beyond the auction process. So properties that have gone to auction and there's been no action from that process. So over the next few months, both Liz and myself will be working on specific strategies to develop a path forward for these properties, and we will present to council as we progress through this. So moving on to utilities. So utility arrears, we saw a bit of an increase this month with 13,800 compared to just under 5,000 in April. So 48-hour notices were mailed out, but I'm happy to report that there were 0 shutoffs because arrangements were made or payments were made. So a summary of the bank account balances at May 20th. Financial updates. So the LAPP audit was completed on May 12th ahead of the May 31st deadline. So we're through with audit season for the 2025 fiscal year, which is always an exciting milestone. 2026 financial statements are attached. There's always a little bit of a lag in the financial information and then what Garnet reports with the timing of the statements. His reports obviously have much more information. Mine are just what I can gather from the invoice. So just some numbers to add some supplemental information to Garnet's report there. As well as a 2026 capital project financial update. So a few projects were completed as of May 20th, 2026. So soil conditioner, V-plow for the Toolcat, and RPM mounted RPM backhoe mounted blower purchases were completed. All three of these projects came in slightly under budget, which is always great to see. And again, the capital budget has been attached for your review, so you can track the progress throughout the year. For other news, so I'm excited to announce that Melissa has joined our corporate services team as the corporate services assistant. She started, her first day was on Monday. She'll be back in tomorrow and Thursday to complete her first week. So she comes to the town with extensive municipal experience, so she'll just make a really great addition to help round out our team. So Jen has officially moved into her new office, which is formerly the finance manager office, so be sure to stop by and see her new setup if you're in the office this week or in coming weeks. So she is, I say she'll be assisting, but she's taking point on helping to really onboard Melissa in the next few weeks too, as she acclimates to her new role. And she will be assisting the corporate services team on a part-time basis, but her main focus will be on OH&S. This past week, Pam attended the GFOA conference in Calgary, so I'm looking forward to some updates on the sessions attended when she returns. The update that we received was that dueling pianos was the entertainment, and they somehow incorporated line dancing, so I have some follow-up questions regarding that. But you know, it's always great when finance people get together and there's alcohol involved, for sure. So administration is in the process of reviewing options for a benefit plan conversions that will be presented to council at a later date once there's more information available. And upcoming, just continuing negotiations on the draft bargaining agreement with the union. Big one here, base work on the 3-year operating and 5-year capital plan, and just really starting the process of the 2027 budget, and continuing to work on the 2026 to 28 corporate plan with the SLT. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions through to Ms. Tingley? Go ahead.
Again, maybe it's because I'm a newbie, but
Yeah.
the outstanding taxes 2022. Can you explain the process? I thought by now the town would take ownership of something that wasn't paid going back that far.
Yeah, so we're kind of getting some clarification on the timelines there. So I don't want to butcher the dates, but I'm going to, from my memory, beyond the auction process, if the property is in auction, or sorry, if the property nobody buys the property at the auction, the clock starts from there. But municipal affairs couldn't give me clear direction on whether or not it started then, or if the property was listed as tax forfeiture, if that was put on title. But then the clock starts, and I apologize, this was gonna be part of my rollout of the next few reports as we kind of dig into plans, but it's either 10 or it's 15 years from then until the property becomes the municipalities, and then we could sell the property at that time, and the funds have to be held for 10 years. But I have to just take the time to gather the information from municipal affairs and from legal, just due to time constraints. It wasn't something that I could do within the last month, but I'm hoping I will have a more concrete path forward just more information on that specifically for the June committee of the whole meeting, and then when we come back in the fall, specifics as it relates to the property. So it's a bit of a staged process here because we're just trying to manage workflow and during our busy season.
Extremely long process is
Yeah.
basically what it comes down
But
to.
essentially, I'm trying to make sure I have all of the groundwork in place with all of the backup, because these properties will likely be whoever comes after me. So I have to make sure that we have everything done on our end so that, you know, at some point when they're entirely different people sitting here, I guess, and all of us maybe.
You mentioned in your report that the upcoming auction for this year is properties from 2025.
Yep.
No.
On tax notification in 25.
2025 that haven't paid taxes for 2025 or 2024. They have to be in arrears for 2 full seasons before they can even come to the tax auction. So we go back to 2024 just in this year's process.
Yep.
So there's 2 years of overdue processes that are in those dollar values, yeah. And sometimes it's not single properties, it's large tracts.
This is the case with the 2022 balances.
The process is actually, sorry, Mr. Mayor, members of council, the process is actually relatively quick if they're actually auctioned. If somebody buys them at auction, then the process is, but without the purchase at auction, and they can only go to auction once.
We would have to purchase them if we wanted to speed it up, or at the minimum bid, right? That's the other option. And that could be hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the property.
Okay. I have just some information for council and administration. I found out today that there is a resolution coming through to the next Alberta municipalities, and I believe it is Fairview and the city of Edmonton that are combined in the.
Peace River, derelict Dubuque, Peace River.
Yeah, so it's for derelict or dangerous non-res properties. Special, because with non-res properties, we have a limited scope as far as what we can do for assessment class.
Yep.
So their position is that there should be another class for non-res derelict or dangerous buildings. And I was thinking that would be something maybe we should speak to at the convention with respect to residential, not residential, sorry, where you rent your house out as opposed to a resident. So if we could get the process to include rental properties.
Short-term rental.
Yeah, so if you have a house in your community that is used strictly as a rental, it's not used as a primary residence, if that could be included as a commercial non-residential, that would be nice.
Mayor, members of council, so that is what the town of Canmore has done. And they won a court battle twice on it, and the province is now proposing legislation to get rid of it.
That's the short term
But-
stuff though, isn't it? It's not a house that's just rented year round to a family or whatever. Short term rent.
But it also wasn't derelict and dangerous. This resolution is specifically focused on derelict and dangerous properties.
So, Mr. Mayor, on residential, I think that ability's already there for,
Yeah.
you can do that. But I think the issue, and I haven't seen the resolution, so I haven't read it, but just from what you've said, you're limited in the number of subclasses that you can have in non-res. And so, my guess is the request is to have a specific, the ability to have a specific subclass for commercial, derelict, vacant. Because right now, you can have your, and most municipalities will have a vacant, a vacant commercial property, and they'll have a rate for that. That's your one subclass.
Yes.
So you can't have an additional one for a derelict or a dangerous property, right? Then you've got to go into the Municipal Government Act and use different methods to get it to comply to your vacant subclass, right? So again, without seeing the resolution, that's my guess where the path they're going down.
My understanding was that the purpose of the resolution is to get that subclass created in the MGA so that municipalities could create the mill rate at a higher rate than just a vacant building. So
Yeah,
it might be interesting to see.
And again, I think, in 99% of municipalities, those buildings are probably less than 1% of the commercial buildings in their municipality. So using your subclass on that probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So hence the request for an amendment to the Municipal Government Act so that you can deal with, more effectively deal with that dangerous and derelict commercial property, right?
I just thought it was an interesting presentation, sort of. All right. Anything else from Ms. Tingley? Look for a motion to go to closed session.
You want one for reports?
Oh, okay.
I'll do reports.
Reports? Thank you. My agenda just closed on me, so, look, oh yes, all right. Motion to accept reports is presented. All in favor? It's carried. Councillor Spicer?
Motion to move to closed session?
Motion is to close session. I'll call that question. All in favor? And a short recess for 5 minutes while we get the electronics converted.
you're ruthless tonight, aren't you?
Okay, Councillor Smith,
I'll make a motion, we come out of closed session.
thank you. Discussion? Call that question, all in favor? That's carried. Councillor Olson,
Motion to adjourn.
all in favor? That's carried. Thank you, everybody. A good meeting